You're making New Year's resolutions. You're making New Year's resolutions this year. Oh, you're serious. Hello. Welcome to my New Year's Eve party. Yes, you are the only guest. You're a little close. Could you one Meryl Streep away at all times, please? It's New Year! I don't even think I even need to do the roll call on things that have happened this year, but it would seem to me that some of us are still trying to plough ahead. And to those people, I salute you. Why aren't I drinking out of a wine glass? I smashed them all, but that's a story for another party. If you insist on making New Year's resolutions this year, I can't stop you, I can't. But I just need you to understand what you're doing. And you know what they say, if you're gonna shit in the bed, you might as well make it a really good one. Round, firm, easy to clean up. Over the years, I have set so many resolutions, and I have completed some of them. You might have seen that I've set some resolutions for the whole of my 30s, my whole decade. You can watch that video up there. So it's not like I'm a stranger to them, but I have been analysing recently what makes a bad resolution and why do we get them so wrong so often. I actually started scripting this video in July because I've had a lot of time to think. So here are 10 things I think we've been lied to when it comes to New Year's resolutions. And before you make yours, just please, as a friend, hear me out. This is a Yule intervention, a lang syne intervention, a lang's intervention. They have to be all or nothing. I've talked in videos before about how maybe even if you or your parents parents weren't religious, I think there is something of the kind of behavioural guilt and correctional perfection in the bad parts of religion that still permeates our brains and how we organise thoughts today. One of those things is how we focus on spit-spot behaviour over results. A good example I've been thinking about this year as I've been trying to cut down on my meat consumption is veganism. For some people it is an identity, and that's great, that's fine, but if we're gonna pragmatically get through this, I don't know why I was itching my wrists so theatrically then. If we're gonna pragmatically get through this, we're gonna have to move it away from an identity, a binary where there are vegans and non-vegans, and move it towards vegan behaviour, having a vegan moment. It is about impact, not identity, and whatever you're doing. So if we're gonna apply this to food and you're a meat eater and you think, oh, I'm just gonna go vegan for the year. That's a challenge, my friend, a challenge. And if you're up for it, great. But if you know yourself and you secretly know in the back of your brain that that's not going to be possible, here are some options. How about one meal in the day that is vegan? This could be breakfast, that's really easy. A lunch, ooh, or advanced level, a dinner. In this book that I keep going on about, it talks about how dinner is often the most culturally significant and emotional dinner for most people, most cultures in the world, so it's the hardest one to take meat out of. So you could think about aiming for at least one meal a day that's vegan. You could, if you're really attached to, say, cheese, and that's what's been stopping you from cutting down on what you're eating, just give up meat and eggs. It doesn't have to be the whole package straight away, which is the name of my dating columnist memoir that I will write in my 50s. Perhaps there are types of meat that you don't feel particularly passionate about, but there's one type of meat that you love. Give up all the other ones. Or I would like to raise you one of my favourite policies, the pick one thing policy. I apply this to lifestyle changes I'd like to make, but there's one thing that I'd really miss or that's holding me back from doing it. Fine, smash that thing out. Throw it over there, it's fine. Just focus on your impact, not your identity. For example, I try and buy as much cruelty-free makeup and skincare and moisturiser and whatever, all the face and body gunk that I seem to need near my body. I try to buy as much that's cruelty-free and not in plastic as possible. However, there's this one mascara, it's called Roller Girl by Benefit, and it makes me really happy. And I know that might be really sad to some people, but I reject your judgment. I see your judgment, I hold it, and I send it back to you. There's this one mascara that I just love, and I realised that if I just let myself have that one thing, it was so much easier to stop buying all the other stuff that was tested on animals. Every time I looked at something that I wanted that was outside of what I have decided not to buy, it was so much easier to step away from it because I was like, well, I get my Roller Girl. I've had my fun. You could apply that to food as well. So say I get my chicken, all the other meats are out the window, or I get my cheese, all the other dairy products are out the window. Or perhaps next year it's a flight, if we ever fly again. Perhaps if you are in a privileged position where you used to take more than one flight a year, pick the one trip that you'd love to go on, or allow yourself one trip and be like, that's my flight of the year. And probably the flight home, unless you're having an eat, pray, love situation, in which case I support you, and write me a book on that. This is an interesting lie. They have to be verbs. For those who always forget, Love, love is a verb, love is a doing word. I have to do this thing, I have to take up something, it's a kinetic action. It doesn't have to be that. Instead, can I raise you maybe the personal policies resolution? I actually secretly set this one for myself, I think it was like 2 years ago, and I really needed it at the time. 10 people are allowed to hate you. So much of the square foot in my brain was being taken up by certain people being potentially upset with me, potentially not liking me 100%, having some kind of gripe with me that I believed was unjust, but also for some reason just wanted to fix it, like had an obsession with fixing it, couldn't stop thinking about it. And I realised that I should be setting myself an allowance. That's my personal policy. 10 people are allowed to hate me. I wrote down about 5 names and was like, oh wow, I've got so much room in my life for people who hate me. I've got another 50 years here. I think if you live in the world and you interact with thousands of people in your life and 10 people end up not liking you, them's some pretty good odds. Another one that I did last Christmas was no board games. It's a personal policy of mine. I do enjoy a good board game in the right context, the right board game, the right night, the right people, but I realised that at Christmas, board games just made me like livid or sad or just, I don't know what it was, but I just never had a good time doing them. So I came home and I was like, guys, I've decided this year, I'm not going to do board games. I hope that's okay. And then you're not personally turning people down every time they ask you for something and they don't feel personally rejected. You can just be like, oh sorry, it's a personal policy this year that I'm not going to be doing roller derby. I've given up bowling. I'm trying to think of other things I don't want to do. I have sworn off action films. And then somebody doesn't feel like you're really rejecting their plan. You're just like, oh, before you had an idea, I had an idea and I've implemented that idea. I'm pretty sure I got this idea from the magic art of not giving a fuck, which is a personal policy of mine to keep learning from forever. Number 3, they have to better you in some way. Really? Does it get any better than this? No, but I think there is this like problem where every year we have to turn up and scold ourselves for the way that we're not. All the ways we are not succeeding, all the holes in our personalities. And you know, successes and big life events and big life disappointments don't come in yearly cycles. You might be in the middle of a big life disappointment or in the middle of a big life success, and then maybe not the moment to be setting New Year's resolutions that are all about self-improvement. You've just worked really hard and improved yourself to an incredible amount and you probably just deserve a lot of pats on the back, or you're not in a place where you should be trying to make yourself better. You should be trying to accept yourself the way you are. So why not skip from improvement to enjoyment? For example, in 2021, I'm going to be bold here and tell you guys about one of my New Year's resolutions. I want to watch every single film Meryl Streep has been in, put a toe into, breathed on, every single one of them. I want to watch them all and I'm going to enjoy them all and it's going to be great and it'll feel like an achievement and yeah, it'll improve my pub quiz life. But apart from that, that's a resolution that serves me, I don't serve it. I even have a book quote for this because I'm a nerd. Lamott is an essayist and she said, perfection is the voice of the oppressor, the enemy of the people. It will keep you cramped and insane your whole life. Perfectionism is based on the obsessive belief that if you run carefully enough, hit each stepping stone just right, you won't have to die. The truth is that you will die anyway, and that a lot of people who aren't even looking at their feet are going to do a whole lot better than you and have a whole lot more fun while they're doing it. So stop trying to hit every single bloody stepping stone, give yourself a year off and set yourself a silly challenge. Maybe you want to bake your way through a recipe collection, although Julie and Julia makes that look more stressful than maybe meditative. I'm a mess. Or like read every book by a certain author, or go to a certain collection of places in your hometown, or write yourself the perfect pub crawl and do it when this is all over. Oh my god, that's a great one. I should do that. To be measurable, they have to have strict parameters. Look, you don't know what this year holds, and I really love the idea that you're going to set yourself a measurable target, but I think there needs to be some wiggle room. That's why I love a good reading goal that is just per book, not per page or whatever, because if you're having a shit month, you can just read kids' books or comic books, and you can still catch up and get to the target that you want at the end of the year. Another example of one you could do that isn't that metric based, but also does fairly measure how you've gone. So say if you say, I want to have a better relationship with my body. January 1st, sit down, write a little paragraph about how you feel about your body. At the end of the year, do the same, compare the two. If it's improved, well done, have a gin, go home, you've won. Does it have to be any more complicated than that? How you get from January to December is your creative business. I was reading this book called How to Be a Poet, and in it, Jane Commane, which is a great name, said something that I had to write down because it really resonated with me. No one is going to ask to see your notes any more than they want to watch athletes limbering up an hour before the marathon. However you're stretching, whatever you're doing to get ready and change, nobody's going to see that. They don't need to know. You don't need to hand anything in at the end of the year and explain exactly how you did it. Please refer to my lies I learned about school in my 20s video, because you should unpack some stuff if that's what you're thinking. But I think there's some great value in being like, it doesn't actually matter how I get there. I'm just going to get there and it will have improved in some way. They have to be a stop without a start. Oh, I'm giving up smoking, I'm giving up alcohol. There's a great story about my granddad where apparently the vicar at his church asked him, what are you giving up this year, Ron? His name was Ron. Isn't everybody's granddad in the UK is called Ron? Confirm or deny in the comments. He was like, what are you giving up for New Year? And my granddad just looked at him deadpan and was like, I'm giving up church. And I think he did. Anyway, I don't think you're setting yourself up for success if you're simply giving up something. There's a reason that you're either like using it too much, addicted to it, whatever you want to call it, and you have to replace it with something. There has to be a stop and a start. You know, that kind of drama improvisation game where it's like yes and or no but. I'm giving up alcohol and I'm joining a gospel choir. Or like, no, I'm not smoking, but I am making a habit of taking 5-minute breathers every hour out of the office. No, I will not be coming to the pub, but I do have a list of great walks in this area that I want to do. Would you like to do one with me? Do one. Not do a poo, just do a walk. Yes, I won't be scrolling on my phone that much this year, and I'm going to be building a bug hotel in my garden. I trust you to work out the details, but you get the idea. They have to be about you. Maybe you don't need to improve yourself here. Maybe you're doing just fine. The resolution could be about something else. Perhaps you want to write to your MP every month, which will motivate you to keep on top of what the hell is going on in the world so you can write to them about something. And you won't just be telling them what you think of the latest series of The Crown. Or maybe you're going to give to charity for the whole year. The impact of that could be great, but it's just a one-time action. You can just set up a direct debit, know that you will plan to have that in your budget so you're not going to spend that on other stuff, and you're done. There you go, you did it, you self-improved. Maybe there's somebody in your family or in your like greater circle of people that you know is quite lonely. Maybe you can call them once a month. I don't think all our resolutions should start with, what is wrong with me? And be like, what is fucked with the world? And then start from there. I was reading this article about this well-dead author called Anthony Trollope. This video is just full of people with great names. He was a really famous writer and he wrote for 3 hours every day. If he finished a novel halfway through those hours, he would finish the novel, pick up another piece of paper and start a new novel. He was just turning up for those 3 hours every day. He said, 3 hours a day will produce as much as a man ought to write. My novels, whether good or bad, have been as good as I could have made them. Had I had 3 months of idleness between each, they would have been no better. We need to start thinking like a Trollope. Is Trollope an offensive word? Hold on. Oh, a vulgar or disreputable woman. Wow, one who engages in sexual promiscuity or for money. I did not know that, but it's also the surname of a man, so I think we should maybe reclaim it. Stop shaming sex workers and maybe just be more Trollope. And instead of being like, I'm gonna write a 50,000 word novel this year, be like, I am gonna be turning up for an hour every day. And at the end of that, I'll have produced as much as I possibly could have this year. Again, if you have old bad habits of setting weight loss goals or health goals, perhaps you just, it doesn't matter my weight or the way I look at the end of the year, I'm gonna do 1 hour of exercise every week and that'll be fucking that. And I will have succeeded. And I will have been Prime Minister of this town of me. Can't believe they made Trollope a bad word. You have to agree on a resolution to a problem. Now, I often have trouble believing this, but I am not the most wisest version of myself right now. I can recognise that there's an issue with me or an issue with my work or something that I want to work on, but on January the 1st of every year is not the time that I necessarily know how to fix that thing, what I should do, how I can be most effective, what is actually behind that issue. So instead of expecting yourself to have the answer to how to fix the thing straight away, maybe dedicate a certain amount of time per week, per month, per day to working out how to solve that issue. Maybe it's journaling, maybe that's researching if it's something that you're worried about, like the planet. Maybe your goal is to work for yourself, so maybe spend a little time every morning looking up different things you might be able to do and researching different ways you can make money outside of the capitalist machine. Perhaps you come to the conclusion that it's not that you have to do a 360 on yourself or your behaviours, it's just that you have to do less of this, more of this. It's more of a soundboard situation. You just have to tweak the dials a little. But the point is, maybe the resolution can just be working out how to answer a question that you have. Number 9, your resolutions are final. If you're making a list of things, I suggest making one meta resolution. As I said, in a year, things change, become unwise, sometimes become impossible, see 2020. Some things just won't make sense for you anymore that you put in your list at the beginning. So one of your resolutions could be void one of these resolutions. One of the resolutions by the end of the year has to go out the window because it doesn't make sense. Oh my god, but if you do all of your resolutions by the end of the year, the one meta resolution can be meta because the one resolution that you can kick out is your meta resolution to kick a resolution out. Are you with me? Neither am I. Number 10. I said I was going to give you 10 tips, but that would be contradicting my first point that a lack of completion doesn't mean an automatic fail. But number 10 contains nothing. It is a white room filled with air. I feel no remorse. In fact, by doing this, I'm fulfilling one of my own New Year's resolutions for 2021. If you have run out of things to say, stop talking. Thank you so much for coming to my New Year's Eve party. If you'd like to put something on the jukebox, leave that suggestion below and I will play it aloud while answering your comments. I've made lots of other videos on my channel about being lied to, lies that we're told, so if you want to watch more of those videos, you can click up here. A big hip hip hooray to the Gumption Club for making all of these videos possible. If you'd like to be one of the people that tips me per video so that I can keep making more of them, plus be part of a beautiful Facebook group community to die for, you can find out more in the description of how to join. Be careful out there, the self-improvement monsters hanging around at every corner. Personally in 2020, I just want to be a little bit happier and get a little bit more done. Frog's knock out.